So earlier today, our officers were dispatched to a medical call for an unconscious man who was not breathing. Despite the efforts of our officers to save the patient by performing CPR, he didn't survive. We have seen reports that the officers performed mouth to mouth. That did not happen. The officers follow EMS procedures when they perform CPR. While obtaining the patient's medical history, a family member advises that the patient had recently been on a cruise where two other passengers were suspected of having COVID-19. Although it has not yet been determined by Santa Clara County Public Health whether or not the patient had COVID-19, we are taking every step possible to ensure the safety and well-being of the officers who are on the call, the members of our department, and the Sunnyvale community. We have been in constant communication with Santa Clara County Public Health and the CDC to ensure we are following proper procedures to ensure the safety of our staff and our community. While we were coordinating with the county, out of an abundance of caution, the officers were quarantined. They have since returned home. We are asking our community members to remain calm. At this time, we don't yet know if the patient had COVID-19. The precautions we have taken exceed the recommendations by the CDC. We would like to remind everyone that this is an active event, and we will provide updated information as it becomes available through our social media platforms. Once again, we have not yet determined whether or not the patient had COVID-19 and ask everyone to remain calm as Santa Clara County Public Health investigates this incident. We're doing everything that we can to keep the community safe, and we will continue to work with partner agencies to keep our community informed. Some of the things that our community can do to prevent the risk, I would recommend that they go to the Santa Clara County Public Health website for information, and also the website of the Centers for Disease Control. With that, I'll open up to questions.
How many officers, and are they, do they each go to their own homes, and how long were they quarantined?
5 officers were on a call. As soon as we were made aware of the information, we immediately quarantined the officers, and they have just returned home within the hour.
How long were the officers quarantined and where?
The officers were quarantined at a location that I'm not going to disclose, but it was a city facility.
And for how
So the
long?
person who,
For several hours.
the person who informed them that they had just been on a cruise, is that person quarantined as well?
That person has not been quarantined because I want to stress there were no symptoms. There's no indication at this point that they have the virus. We're just being extra careful and taking the steps to protect our officers, our department members, and our community.
Will the officers be returning to work are they going to be at home to stay for a number of days?
The officers would not be returning to work.
How long will they be quarantined at home?
We will be coordinating with county health to determine when it is safe, when it is appropriate for the officers to return to work.
Is the cruise ship the Grand Princess?
This is an active investigation, and this is all preliminary information that we need to work with the county health to confirm all the facts.
Have the officers themselves been tested?
The officers themselves have not been tested because they have not shown any symptoms, and we're following the guidelines provided by the county health and the CDC.
Can you tell us exactly how it went down? So they started to perform CPR on the patient, and then when were the officers told that he may have been exposed to COVID-19?
Again, this is an active investigation, and the preliminary information we have received so far is during the process of the call, and that's when they received the information.
Do you know approximately when the deceased person returned home from the cruise ship?
I don't have that information.
Do you have a cause of death for the deceased person?
The medical examiner will determine the cause of death,
Was
and
he-
we're waiting for the results.
And you said that he was not displaying any symptoms of COVID-19 to our knowledge?
No, what I'm saying is that we have no indication at this time, and so we're working with the county health.
Sorry, what time was the call, and can you describe the location that the officers responded to? So, was it a home or a business or?
It was early this morning, and we're not going to be disclosing the location at this point.
Was it a home or a business?
We're not going to be disclosing the location at this time.
Is there anything that you're doing as a department extra because of this event, or the whole? Can you comment?
I think fortunately, when this virus became a public health issue, we have been planning for an event that have occurred today, and we have followed proper procedures that we have trained our officers on how to respond on this type of call for service.
Are those procedures different now in light of COVID-19 as your officers respond to emergency calls?
Again, this is an evolving public health issue, and we have been monitoring this closely and working with county health and to see if we need to make any changes on how we respond to these types of calls, and we have been updating our department members on any changes that are needed.
What sort of changes would that entail, Chief?
I think it's to revert back to the training that we have provided to our officers.
This is the potential for, I mean, if there was 5 officers who were off shift for a while, can you talk a little bit about the effects that this continuing situation could potentially have on responding to emergencies other than COVID-19?
Again, I want to stress the importance of everyone remaining calm. We are being extra careful in taking the steps that we're taking, and I would ask for people to wait for the results from the medical examiner's office before we make any determination on what if scenarios of what we need to do.
And when do you expect those results?
I have been reassured by the county executive that they are working their very best to make sure that the autopsy report comes back as soon as possible.
Are the officers going to be tested for COVID-19?
At this time, the officers will not be tested. We're following county health's advice and also CDC guidelines.
Chief, you may have mentioned this earlier, but at what point did the officers or did the department become aware of the connection with the cruise ship?
That was information that was provided by a family member during the call.
During the call prior to the officers' arrival?
At some point when they were at the call.
I think we got time for 2 more questions.
Do you think this will extend to other members of the department?
At this time, there's no indication that it's going to extend to other members. And I want to remind everyone here is that we have not confirmed whether the patient had COVID-19.
One more
Sunnyvale,
question. Thank you.
Sunnyvale has a little bit of a unique situation with the way that the officers are kind of dual trained for both police and fire response. Is there any extra steps, anything that you feel would be unique to this department that would need to happen that maybe would not happen the same way in a department like San Jose, where the roles are a little more separated and where police officers might not be as immediately exposed to a patient with a medical emergency?
I can't speak for the departments, but our officers are cross-trained, and this particular call we had patrol officers and officers working the fire side responded, and they're cross-trained, and they know how to handle these incidents, and they follow the proper protocols.
And just one really quick follow-up question to that. You said you had some that were cross-trained, some working on the fire side, some were working more on the police side. How many of each responded to this?
All of our officers are cross-trained, not some.
Okay.
And I believe 5 patrol officers responded, and 2 officers working on the fire side responded.
And so right now you have a total of 5 officers who are self-isolating at home for the time being. And what about the 2 fire?
All 7 officers
All
have
7.
returned
Okay.
home. Yes.
Thanks,
Chief,
everyone, for your
You
time.
mentioned a couple of times that you called on the community to remain calm.
Last one.
Is there some evidence to suggest that people are not remaining calm here in Sunnyvale?
No, there's no evidence. of that at all. But I just want to re-emphasize or emphasize to the public that it's early. We're just being very, very careful, taking the extra steps to ensure that our department members are safe and that our community is safe.
Thank
Just
you,
to
everyone.
clarify,
Thank you very
it's
much.
5. You said 7 earlier. It's 5 officers, correct?
7 public safety officers.
7